What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Jeff Hessler on College Football. I'm Jeffrey Hessler, back with another video. If you didn't check out my last video, please go do so. We talked about 5 coaches with the biggest expectations headed into the 2022-2023 season. This past weekend was loaded with spring games. A lot of transfer news came up too, with Georgia. Texas A&M had a shaky spring game with their quarterback play, but their 5-star receiver showed up big with an amazing catch. But today, we will be talking about Clemson and the possible downfall. Their spring game was very sloppy, okay? Cade Klubnik had a decent game. DJ Ugalele, all right. But the biggest thing is the offense looked very sloppy. And I know it's a spring game, so you can only judge it to an extent. But at the same time, you can tell when an offense just looks out of sync. And last year, that was a big problem for Clemson. Their offense was just out of sync. The defense wasn't bad. The defense showed out in the spring game, actually, this past weekend. The offensive line was very weak last year. They looked very weak in the spring game. And I know, like I said, you can only judge it to an extent because it's a spring game. But at the same time, you know how to block people. And it just didn't seem that way this past Saturday. There's a lot of question I had about this Clemson defense after Brent Venables going to Oklahoma. Brent Venables was the defense coordinator for Clemson. He is a great defense coordinator. He confuses offenses. He brings different blitz schemes here and there. So I was really questioning this Clemson defense, but they showed up in a big way. I think Brian Brees and Xavier Thomas is very good. But with that being said, this could be another Florida State. And I mentioned this in my video last time when I was talking about Dabo Swinney and his expectations. Jimbo Fisher at Florida State, he was high up, had Jameis Winston, goes to a national championship, wins the national championship, come playoff, goes to the playoff, undefeated, loses in the playoff, and then from there on, they just kind of decelerated to an extent. Jimbo Fisher ends up taking the Texas A&M job. The rest is history. Florida State has not really competed on the level that they have for years and years and years. They're not the powerhouse they had been for years and years and years. Dabo Swinney has been rumored to be taking over Nick Saban's head coaching job at Alabama when it's all said and done for Nick Saban. Who knows how true that is? I think it could possibly happen. We'll see if it does or not. But when I say they could fall off, I mean that by the buy-in of the program just does not seem all the way there, okay? We talked about in my last video how they made the playoffs 2015 through 2020. That's a great run, great stretch. They won a national championship in that stretch. But at the same time, Cade Klubnik could save the program possibly. We'll see. But as of right now, things for Clemson does not look good. They're heading down a bad path. And I know it's the spring game. I know you can't, like I said, you can only judge it to an extent. But DJ last year looked really, really uncomfortable behind that offensive line. He looked uncomfortable in the pocket. In the spring game, he looked uncomfortable. Cade Klubnik made some very good throws. He was the #1 quarterback in his class this past season after Quinn Ewers reclassified. But we'll see how much he can really do for this team. DJ has to step up unless he ends up hitting the transfer portal. We'll see. I think it is going to be very hard to keep Cade Klubnik off the field. He just looked way more comfortable, way more adapt to the offense, and that's saying a lot for a true freshman who's only been there since fall, if that. Just got there a couple months ago. So, that being said, DJ Ugalele threw 17. He completed 17 passes, 36 attempts, not that great. Had 175 yards and an interception, where Cade Klubnik threw 15 completions for 23 attempts on 106 yards and a touchdown. The final score was 15-7. So, like I said, man, the offense is just not there. Dabo Swinney needs to figure something out because college football is an offensive-driven league at this point. You got teams like with Alabama and Bryce Young. You got teams like Ohio State, C.J. Stroud, Lincoln Riley is going to build something at USC with a crazy offense, just like he did at Oklahoma. Texas's offense is looking very nasty right now with Quinn Ewers and their young talent, Bijan Robinson, Steve Sarkisian. Who knows what Clemson is going to end up as, but I think as a Clemson fan, I'm starting to get worried. I'm not a Clemson fan, let me rephrase that. If I was a Clemson fan, I would start to get worried because this is the same kind of groove that happened to Florida State. They were on top of the world. They were dominating, and then all of a sudden they just fell off. coach ends up leaving. And it doesn't help when you got Dabo Swinney making these comments on how he doesn't like the transfer portal, he doesn't like NAL, he doesn't like how college football is. It's a mess now. I'm sorry, Dabo, you just got to adapt. It's all about adapting, okay? These kids want to get paid, they should get paid. Whether you like that or not, that's not your decision, and that these recruits see that stuff. They don't like that their head coach that they would be playing for doesn't agree with them getting paid. The transfer portal, I'm not the biggest fan of it. Nobody probably is the biggest fan of it, but you got to deal with it, man. It's just, you can't sit there and complain. You just got to adapt to it. Like I said, you sit there and complain, you're not going to do anything. You're just going to fall back. And I don't think there's very much talent in the ACC this year. Wouldn't be surprised if Clemson manages to win it. Maybe not. But like I said, the ACC, not a lot of talent. It's going to be a weak conference. It's been a weak conference. Clemson's dominated it, except for this past year. But now Clemson is starting to descend a little bit. So we'll see. If you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I will be making a video about Texas A&M spring game coming up next. Might get into some of these transfer things that came up for Georgia. Lost 2 offensive linemen this past weekend, which is huge. Talk about some recruiting. Might get into some mock draft type stuff. So, y'all stay tuned. Appreciate it. Have a good day.